Hey everyone, Jonathan here, and welcome to Crushing Land this week. As you can see, I am not in my normal location. If you're watching down in Florida for the week here, and it's a little bright behind me. I apologize for that. It is Sunshine State, so it is a little brighter down here, and it doesn't have the same conditions that I have where I live. But anyway, you can still see me, and you can obviously still hear. And so what we're going to talk about a little bit is picking areas to work in, picking counties, identifying counties, things like that, areas and parameters that you should look at, and specific items and things like that that you may not that you may remove, or things like that as you're moving forward. So are all counties the same? Well, bottom line is no, they're not, right? But we're in a hot market right now as we're recording this, and that obviously can change. But right now across the country, things are very hot. Does that mean that every county is hot? Of course not. Every area is hot? Of course not. Right? There's areas that are doing well, and there's areas that still aren't as good. So what do you look at when you're picking a county? Well, you want to make sure that it is actually a growing area. That's important, right? We want to make sure that the people are actually moving there. Now, there's a lot more of those now than maybe in other times, so that makes it a lot easier. In general, most areas are growing right now. They're not losing people, but obviously we hear on the news and certain areas people are leaving, left and right. And so because of that, those areas are not nearly as not growing. I apologize. The other thing that you want to take some time and look at is people live there. There's counties out there that are just desolate. It's the bottom line. You got this big giant county and there's 5,000 people in it. There's 2,000 people in it. There's 10,000 people in it. Do people actually live there? It's much harder to sell a piece of property where nobody lives because nobody's moving there either. You may sit there and say, well, it's showing growth, but if you have a population of 2,000 people and you've gained 10 people, it's showing a 5% growth, but it's that could just be one family moved in. So again, you want to actually see that there's some substantial amount of people living there. Now, obviously, that's all relative. If the county's a lot smaller than others, then you're not going to. If it's a state with a bunch of small counties, they may have growth and a decent amount may have 30, 40, 50,000 people. Whereas if you're out west in a state with just a handful of counties, then you're obviously going to want to see some actual real population and people living there. So just a few things to look at as you're determining where to go and things like that. And what do you do? How do you know if it's hot or not? I mean, it's pretty easy to just look at data and figure that out. If you go on to any site, realtor.com or Zillow or anything like that, and you just compare what's for sale and what's sold in a certain amount of time, say the last year, if you do that, you're going to be able to tell how hot or how in demand the county is. Obviously, in the last year, if you see that there's been 200 properties listed and 1,000 have sold, it shows that things are flying off the shelves and it's crazy, right? That means that it's a very hot seller's market. Conversely, if you see 1,000 properties that have been listed for sale in the last year and only 200 have sold, well, then things are not selling nearly as quickly. That's more of a buyer's market. There's not a whole lot of those out there right now, but they still do exist. There are still areas like that. So as you're looking at that, you can tell what kind of market that you're getting into. And then obviously you can shape your offers accordingly. If you're in an area that's super hot and everything is going crazy and there's a bunch of activity and things like that, you're not going to be picking properties up at 10 cents on the dollar. Even though others have said that still exists and there's still deals. Does it exist? Sure. I'm not saying that it doesn't completely exist, but it's not the norm. And so to sit there and go out there and highlight a deal, oh, this person picked up a $50,000 piece of property for $5,000. Does it happen? Absolutely. Is it the regular? No, not in a market like that. Obviously, it would be shaped and where you'd be offering more, but being able to sell it for more. So when you're looking at these counties, you can kind of determine how hot they are. You can determine how much interest there is there just by looking at the population. You could be looking at a lot of different things as you're moving forward. The other thing you can do is you can obviously sort by price as well, and you can see which areas different things are going in, and then you can obviously determine where you're going to market to as far as price point. So for example, you may sit there and say, well, how many properties that sold between $5,000 and $10,000? How many sold between $10,000 and $20,000? How many sold from $20,000 to $50,000? Whatever it may be, you can sort all of that out and you can look at those numbers and you can see where things are. And in some areas, there's been 10,000 sales in the last year, but when you get rid of properties under $5,000, you all of a sudden that 10,000 sales goes down to 5,000 sales. And then when you look at the $5,000 to $10,000 sales, all of a sudden 5,000 sales goes down to $2,500 sales, and only 2,500 pieces of property have sold for over $10,000. So when you're looking at these things, you can kind of figure out exactly where the market is. And there's nothing wrong with targeting those lower end properties. I've done hundreds of deals like that in the past, where obviously you can get them at a very low rate and flip them and things like that. But again, it's just understanding that going in. So as you're looking at counties, look at a few different things. Look at, where the average sale price is and where things are going. Look at how many people live there. Look at what has sold. Look at what's for sale as you're going there. Look at the population. Look at if it's growing, all of that. And as you're looking at that thing, it will help those things. It'll help you to determine whether or not you're in a decent market or not. So again, guys, thank you for joining us on Crushing Land. We just kind of talk about a topic each and every week, something a little bit different that helps you with your land investing journey. As a reminder, we did release the Land Riches Blueprint program as well, this course, which will help you with all of these things and get into this stuff in so much more detail, and also not just in more detail, but obviously in a logical way from start to finish so that you can do this business. So if you're interested in checking that out, go to the landrichesblueprint.com. So again, thank you everybody for joining us. It's a great time to invest right now. As was mentioned, there's so much hot markets out there right now, and hot doesn't necessarily mean bad. It doesn't mean that it's harder to get deals done. People say, oh, it's harder to get deals done in the hot market because there's more competition. There is more competition. There's no doubt about that. But you know what? You need to just differentiate yourself, and we help you to do that. We're still getting deals done in this market. And obviously what happens and where the plus comes in that is in a hot market, even though there may be a little bit more difficulty with competition and things like that, you also get a lot more opportunity to be able to sell your properties quicker, easier, faster, all of that. So great time to get going for those of you who are thinking about that and who have been joining us and watching these. So again, thank you. Stay the course. You're going to see great success. And we thank you all for trusting in us and for joining us. And we'll catch you next time on Crushing Land. Thanks a lot, guys. See you later.